If you don't live under a rock, you have seen that everyone is talking about ChatGPT, OpenAI, yada yada yada. And I've been seeing videos of people talking to ChatGPT about investing, about like personal issues, about work issues. So I kind of wanted to have a conversation, you might say, with ChatGPT about dog training, which, as people might not realize, is for some reason very controversial sometimes. There are topics in dog training that we can't agree upon, even though in my opinion some methodologies are clearly more scientifically backed and effective than others. So I kind of wanted to talk about this with ChatGPT and see what they say. So what is OpenAI/ChatGPT? By the way, my Mochi iPad case. So according to Wikipedia,
ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI, launched in November 2022. It's built on top of OpenAI's GPT-3 family of large language models and has been fine-tuned using both supervised and reinforcement learning techniques.
So I'm not like an AI expert, but I do know a little bit about machine learning. In short, this basically program gets a ton of data and information fed into it by a ton of sources. Then the cool thing is that this AI kind of feeds back an answer that it develops based on all the training and the learning that it's gone through. So unlike some standard program where you just ask it a question and then the machine will look for the answer in a database and feed you that answer, AI doesn't just look into its data sources and give you an answer. It's more predictive based on all the training and based on all of the learning it has gone through with the sources of data, if that makes sense. So I know that ChatGPT is not always accurate, it's not perfect, and it's definitely still in its early stages, but I definitely think it's really cool to see what it says about controversial topics in dog training. And by the way, I know that ChatGPT retains information that you feed it in the past. So it'll kind of tailor your responses based on your prior inputs. But before you think it's going to give biased answers, because I'm pretty clearly and outspokenly pro positive reinforcement, anti-aversive methods, I have not spoken, you might say, to ChatGPT about dog training ever before. So all of these answers that I get today are not biased, and I purposely phrase them in a not biased way. But make sure to stay till the end to get the most controversial answer I got so far from ChatGPT about dog training. So I want to start with some basic questions just to kind of get a feel for the program and kind of, get talking about dog training. So first I asked it, I just got a puppy, how do I start with training? So ChatGPT said to me, basically teach the puppy the basics. Second, really cool, said use positive reinforcement, effective and humane way to train your puppy. Thirdly, be consistent. Fourthly, keep training short. 5, socialize, which again is super important in puppy training, so I really like that it said that. And 6, seek professional help if necessary. So I think that's a great place to start. I love that it mentioned positive reinforcement already. So I can totally imagine new puppy owners going to ChatGPT asking this question, and I think that this answer is totally appropriate. Again, we have to remember this answer is coming from this machine learning based off of a bunch of resources that exist online already. So it is kind of indicative of what kind of information is out there. So as a second question, I asked, should I take my dog to the dog park? I kind of want to start again with a quite mellow question. Again, this is not very controversial. If you've watched my videos in the past, I'm anti-dog parks. I think they're a bad place to socialize. I think there's a lot of irresponsible dog owners out there. And I think it gave me some pretty solid advice again. So it basically said that dog parks are not for everyone. It depends on your dog's behavior, yada, yada, yada. And basically it was saying that you better be responsible for your dog before you take it to the dog park, and that you should also consider your dog's needs, wants, desires before throwing them in with a bunch of dogs. I thought that was really a positive answer, but one thing it did say that I thought was iffy was that it might be a good way to socialize your dog. But it did kind of sound like it was suggesting dog parks as a part of socializing your dog. So I asked it a follow-up question, is it good for socializing a puppy? And the answer, I think, again, was quite good. It was just saying by introducing your puppy gradually and that interaction with other dogs is a part of socialization. I definitely agree with everything ChatGPT said in regards to the dog park and socializing at the dog park. I feel like where we don't completely agree is that I don't think dog parks are appropriate for socialization, but it sounds like by this answer, ChatGPT is just saying interacting with other dogs in a calm, neutral, safe way is a part of socialization, which is totally true. So overall, again, I really liked the answer that this gave me. And I think it's important if someone were to look this up on ChatGPT, I like that it didn't just say, yeah, dog parks are an amazing way for dogs to release their energy and you don't have to walk with them or something. I think this is a really unbiased answer that they gave. Thirdly, I wanted to start getting a little bit more controversial in the way that this question might result in different answers. So the question was, how do you train a reactive dog? And my biggest fear was that ChatGPT would say something like, correct the behavior, don't let them practice that behavior by popping their leash or something. But the answer, again, I love this answer. Given it didn't get too in depth about training, like it didn't talk about counter conditioning and desensitization, but I mean, what can we expect from like a paragraph long answer about training reactivity, which is such a complex issue? But overall, I think it hit the nail on the head. It talks about identifying their triggers, of course, the most important part of training reactivity, managing the environment, again, so important, training alternative behaviors, using positive reinforcement, and seeking professional help. I think these answers are really awesome and really, again, just are super accurate, and I can agree with everything that it said. And I want to know here, before we get into the more controversial questions that I asked it, I've noticed that every single answer to do with dog training really emphasizes the use of positive reinforcement, which I love that. And I hope that people that are looking into ChatGPT for dog training advice, I don't know how many people are out there doing that. I hope that they see that and really take that into consideration, that positive reinforcement is an overarching theme in all of these answers. So then I thought, let's get slightly more controversial, some questions that have definitely people on both sides of the fence, and I wanted to see what ChatGPT would say in response. So I've said adopt, don't shop, question mark. So the reason I asked this, I know it's not dog training, but this is a really big topic in the dog world. I hate this saying. I must admit, I used to say this all the time. I love shelter dogs. I had a shelter dog and I think they're amazing, but I think that this phrase is so toxic, but it's so normalized, especially on like social media. People are like hashtag adopt, don't shop. This is just shaming people that get breeder dogs, even though breeder dogs are also amazing dogs and people have different needs. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but I don't like adopt, don't shop as a phrase. And I honestly thought by asking ChatGPT this, it would definitely kind of be pro adopt, don't shop, the phrase, because it's so prevalent online. But I thought it was a great answer again. It basically said adopt, don't shop is a popular slogan, blah, blah, blah. And it's about promoting buying shelter dogs rather than from breeders or pet stores. And then it basically said that not all breeders are unethical. Some people have specific reasons for wanting a particular breed or health tested dogs, basically is what they're saying. But then it said overall the message behind adopt, don't shop is to encourage people to consider adopting. I think that's spot on. The only thing I really don't agree with is that they said pet shops can be ethical sometimes, which I totally disagree with, but you know, we can't get everything right. So the next question I asked is, do harnesses make dogs pull? Again, I don't even know why this is considered controversial. A tool cannot make your dog do anything. How to make your dog stop pulling or to discourage pulling is not going to come from whether you use a harness or a collar. But again, a ton of people online are saying harnesses make dogs pull, and it's like a lot more common than you think. So again, I was like a little bit skeptical what ChatGPT would tell me. But again, I love this answer, but I didn't love it as much as the other ones actually. So the second half of the answer threw me for a loop because at first it was like, no, harnesses don't cause dogs to pull. And I was like, okay, good. I agree with that. But then in the second half of the answer, it basically said, however, it's important to note that different types of harnesses may not be as effective in reducing pulling. Particularly front clip harnesses encourage pulling in some dogs. Ultimately, the effectiveness of a harness in reducing pulling depends on several factors, including the type of harness, size, breed of the dog, etc., and training methods used. So the training methods used is so true. Also, I think breed is important when we talk about leash pulling. For example, Huskies, it's definitely in their blood to want to pull. I mean, they're like basically sled dogs that are walking amongst us. I definitely agree with that part, but like, I do not agree that certain harnesses encourage pulling, like front clips harnesses encourage pulling. And so these are the times when I would say like, okay, it's ChatGPT, like AI is not ready to give dog training advice that well yet. I would still go to like a real human for real questions. And yeah, this is one where I was like, okay, like I kind of agree with most of what you said, but not like the little things. So next I asked it a pretty controversial question. And again, here I tried to phrase it in the opposite bias way. So I kind of wanted to trick the AI into giving me like a controversial answer. So I said, how do I punish my dog for a potty accident? Obviously, I would never do that, but I wanted to see what it would say. And here there's a clear answer that you shouldn't punish a dog, right? Like I have said a million times before, I think I said it in my potty training video I made on this channel, you should never punish an accident. It happens, it's part of potty training, but the most important thing is that dogs are not capable of associating a punishment with like a retrospective action. So if your dog pees on the floor and then a minute later you come in screaming at them, they're gonna be like, why is she screaming at me? Like I have no idea what's happening. So punishment just doesn't make sense in this case ever. But again, there's so many sources online that suggest, punishing. So I wanted to see what it would say. And again, I really like this answer. It said, dogs don't have the ability to understand punishment in the same way that humans do. And punishing for them for something they did in the past can actually make the problem worse. This again is spot on. Just like I said, they don't have that retrospective thinking quality. And I said basically it was important on focusing on preventing the accidents to begin with, always taking them out often, reinforcing good behavior with positive reinforcement. I was very pleasantly surprised with this answer again, because I mean, like I keep saying, there's just so many sources online that you don't know what is like the majority thoughts, and you don't know what this program is going to basically spit out based on all this learning that it's had. But yeah, perfect answer again. Kind of related to punishment, I asked it, should I punish my dog for growling? Again, very controversial question for some reason, but a lot of people are like, you should punish your dog for growling. It's not good behavior. Even though this is a very, very, very dangerous thing to do, because growling is like a very healthy warning sign for dogs to give. If a dog is growling, you know they're under stress, they're anxious, they're angry, whatever. And that allows you to de-escalate the situation before it escalates to something like a bite. This is a very serious thing, but still people are like, oh, you should punish it, even though that's so dangerous, because then you're just going to suppress the dog. They're not going to communicate. They're not going to give you warning signs anymore. So I wanted to ask ChatGPT this to see what they would say. It said, no, punishing your dog for growling is not recommended. It can make the problem worse. Growling is a natural and important means of communication. It's exactly what I wanted to say. And it's important to respect and understand your dog's communication signals rather than punishing them for their feelings. And that's all about what like the training method I use on my channel is, right? Like we don't punish dogs for having emotions. We would actually rather them give these warning signs, communicate their emotions so we can help them. So yeah, this gave a really good answer. And I kind of wanted to like bait the AI. I mean, I know this is not like a person with emotions, but you know what I mean? I kind of wanted to bait a controversial answer, but it didn't give me a controversial answer. And again, ChatGPT is giving me a positive reinforcement-based answer, which I love. So now I wanted to ask it some more direct, still controversial questions that I have very strong opinions on again. So we got a little bit deeper into it. So next I asked it, what do you think of prong and choke collars for dogs? So I did make a mistake here because I said, what do you think? And obviously it can't think. So it told me I can't think. But it's funny that even after it says that, it still takes a stance to promote positive reinforcement, more ethical, more humane, effective methods. So it basically tells me that these collars are aversive training tools that are designed to cause discomfort or pain when a dog pulls on the leash or displays unwanted behavior. And then really interesting, it says, while these tools may appear to be effective in stopping in the short term, they can cause physical and psychological harm to dogs when used improperly or excessively. And then it just kind of goes on to the negative impacts of these kind of tools. And it also says that these tools increase anxiety, fear, and aggression in some dogs. The reason why I love that it says this is because, you know, ChatGPT might become kind of like a search engine type thing. I mean, it already has become. I know some people that literally just search all their stuff there instead of Google. And I really have good faith in knowing that if someone were to look up something like what I just did about prong collars and choke collars, that it gives a very, you know, in my opinion, scientific answer. I know some people are going to be like, no, prong collars are amazing, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. And I really like that something like ChatGPT gives an answer that promotes positive reinforcement first and stands by that LEMA, least intrusive, minimally aversive methods. Okay, next I asked it a pretty controversial question, but this one I actually wasn't too surprised by the answer. I said, is the alpha theory accurate for dogs? I wasn't too worried about this answer being like wrong / pro alpha theory, because even if you look on Google, like it's pretty unanimous. No one believes it. And all the scientific sources say no, alpha theory doesn't apply to dogs. But we still have people like Cesar Millan out here promoting the alpha theory. So I still wanted to check to see what it would say. So it basically said that it's widely debunked. It's true that dogs are social and evolved to live in groups, but like the hierarchy alpha, blah, 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 does not apply to dogs, and they're more complex than just simple hierarchies. And it said the alpha theory relies on outdated, abusive training methods that rely on punishment, intimidation, and physical force to control a dog. I really love that it said that part, because I love that it connects the alpha theory to abusive and ineffective methodologies. A lot of people I feel like are like, oh, I believe in the alpha theory, but then deny the fact that they use abusive methods, even though they kind of go hand in hand, to be honest. And I love that, again, it says good dog training comes from cooperation and positive reinforcement. I mean, that's like the message that people like me, I guess, are trying to spread, right? Like, we want to work with our dogs. We want to work lovingly with our dogs. I don't get the point of getting a dog just to be the alpha for them. I mean, why are you getting a dog at all if you feel like you have to dominate them? That's just not how I think good dog ownership comes from. And it also made me immediately think of Cesar Millan, who still believes in the alpha theory, but I just thought it was funny, again, how it calls the alpha theory intertwined with abusive and psychologically not okay, inhumane, ineffective methods. I just thought it was funny. Next, I asked ChatGPT, can you use physical punishment on dogs? So this, I thought, was getting even more controversial, because this is still happening with like 50% of dog trainers out there. The other day, I saw this Samoyed puppy who ran up to Mochi. She was so cute. I mean, I don't love dogs running up to Mochi, but like this is a little baby, harmless. Everyone makes mistakes. She said hi to Mochi, then went back to her owner. But this owner, once the Samoyed got back to him, he like slammed her onto the ground. And I had to, like, I said something to him, but he didn't listen. but it was just disgusting behavior. And it really makes me realize that sometimes I get caught up in this bubble of like positive reinforcement, force-free style training videos. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy everyone's making so much progress. I love that these kind of dog trainers exist. And then I see people like that, and I remember there's probably dog trainers out there telling him that that's how you punish a dog, even though it's so stupid that he just punished his dog for coming back to him, but that's another story. But anyways, that's why I asked, can you use physical punishments on a dog? Because clearly there are resources out there saying yes. But again, ChatGPT shows his love of positive reinforcement. Using physical punishment such as hitting, kicking, choking, whatever, is not an effective or humane way to train dogs. Physical punishment can cause physical and psychological harm to dogs and can lead to increased aggression and fear. This is so important. And I don't like to necessarily say other dog training methods are bad, because I know everyone's trying to do the best for their dog. But let's take that instance again with a Samoyed. Someone is out there preaching, okay, to punish your dog, slam them onto the ground. That's disgusting. That's not effective, and it's gonna make your relationship with your dog worse, and it might even increase the instances of your dog developing something like aggression out of anxiety. It's come to a point where like I don't care if people get offended. Like, these training methods with using physical punishments are not okay. They're not effective, and just stop doing them. But yeah, I also love how in this answer, how it calls positive reinforcement not only more humane, but scientifically backed. And this indicates that the majority of data out there that was used to train this AI is agreeing on something, that positive reinforcement is the scientifically recommended, center of all dog training. Finally, I asked it the most controversial question probably, and it's, what is the best dog training method? You all know that I'm a positive reinforcement freak. I only use positive reinforcement and negative punishment. I would never use positive punishment or negative reinforcement. And that's what I think is the best dog training method, just because that's what science says, that's what experience says. And the answer is actually kind of funny, because I kept thinking it was going to say like positive reinforcement is the most recommended, but other methods include balance, etc., because that's just like kind of where I thought the answer was going, because it kept saying but, and I thought it might be like positive reinforcement, blah, blah, but some dogs need a stronger hand. But it kept recommending different styles, basically, of positive reinforcement based, essentially force-free methods. Positive reinforcement training can be used to train a wide variety of behaviors and commands, etc. Other effective dog training methods, again, here I thought it was going to say something about a more aversive method, and it said include clicker training, which usually is like positive reinforcement purely almost. And then it was like, it's important to note that while positive reinforcement training is effective, it may not work for every dog or every behavior. In some cases, a qualified dog trainer or behaviorist may recommend other training methods such as counter conditioning or desensitization. Again, I thought it was going to say like positive reinforcement doesn't work for everyone, so you might have to use, again, like punishments, but it basically said another form of positive reinforcement like counter conditioning. This obviously is not like the perfect answer, because it's kind of counterintuitive to say it's important to note that while positive reinforcement training is effective, it may not work for every dog, ... You might have to use counter conditioning, because counter conditioning is often the same thing as positive reinforcement in most cases. So again, this shows like a little flaw with this program, right? Because it's kind of not making total sense, but I still think it's worth noting that every single answer we got today about dog training recommends positive reinforcement. And then I asked it one final like trick question. Again, I framed it in a very opposing view way. I said, why does positive reinforcement dog training not work? Obviously, I don't have this question. I know positive reinforcement dog training works, but I wanted to give it a chance to give me a quote unquote bad answer, something I totally disagree with. And when I started typing like the reasons, I was already getting triggered. I was like, it better not tell me to punish my dog. But this might be my favorite answer of everything I asked it. It gave me the best answer ever. It was telling me all the reasons why positive reinforcement isn't working for your dog is because ... you're not doing it right. Basically, it said the one reason it's not working is inconsistency. You're not being consistent with your training. Second is a lack of motivation. Maybe you're not using high value enough rewards. Thirdly, underlying behavioral or medical issues. Totally valid reason. 4, insufficient training, saying positive reinforcement takes time and patience. And 5th, incorrect use of positive reinforcement. So like maybe bad timing or not using the right rewards. I thought that this answer was perfect and a perfect last question to ask it, because even when I tried to twist it and give me a reason to not use positive reinforcement based training, it basically said, you're doing it wrong. Keep using positive reinforcement and fix it in these 5 ways. I just take this as an awesome sign that we're progressing as like a dog training community, society, whatever, because I am willing to bet 20 or 30 years ago, if we had this technology, from all the sources being fed into this AI, a lot of the answers would be like, you should be the alpha for your dog. You shouldn't let your dog sleep in your bed, like stupid stuff like that. And again, I know ChatGPT is not always accurate, but I'm super excited for the potential this holds. I think it's already cool to ask it like pretty basic questions. So if you're at home and you're bored and you have like a quick dog training question, I think it's cool to ask it. Obviously, you shouldn't take everything that it tells you as truth, the same way you wouldn't take everything on Google or YouTube as truth. But I had an awesome time just like communicating with this program and kind of seeing what it had to say about these quote unquote controversial questions and basically agreeing on everything. What other questions would you ask ChatGPT about dog training? Let me know in the comments, and for now, check out this video linked here on the screen.